You know, it might seem like New York has plenty of apartments, but 100,000 of them just disappeared.
The average overall monthly rent in Manhattan rose to a record $5,588.
I think it's absorbent.
I definitely feel the squeeze.
Someone has to make $220,000 at a bare minimum.
Experts say there are several contributing factors, from low occupancy to lack of new development.
I am considering not coming back to Manhattan.
We knew it was going to be small. We knew it was going to be expensive.
So do you know where all these missing apartments have gone?
Yes, I do, and I'm going to show you where they're going.
But before we see how physical apartments are disappearing in New York City, it's important to understand that it's happening for reasons that might be unexpected. And this is happening in every single type of apartment in New York City. Big buildings, small buildings, and townhouses. Now, there are several reasons why this is happening, and the first has to do with rich New Yorkers who own property like this. And what they do is something you or I, who can't afford to own buildings like this or property like this, will never understand. And that's because it takes a lot of money. But a recent analysis found that over the last 70 years, 50,000 multifamily apartments have disappeared, and that's because they were converted into single-family homes. And if you add the homes that were converted to those that survived, you've got 100,000 missing properties. And this analysis only covers multifamily home conversions, not high-rises, not low-rises, only this type of property. And this is especially popular in larger buildings like this one that have hundreds of units. Now, regardless of the type of property we're talking about, this process works the same every single time it's done. A building like this might have several units in it, which all get turned into one massive apartment. And in a building like this, you might have adjacent apartments that end up being combined. But the end result is the same. You end up with a much, much larger apartment than you had before, and fewer apartments for other people to live in. And critics say this is contributing to New York City's housing shortage. And they're saying that it doesn't help anybody except the rich people that live in the building already. But proponents say it's not fair to tell people what they can and can't do with their own property.
Oh, sorry. Good.
Alex, what do we got here?
We got a beautiful two-bed, private outdoor space, and the thing is, it could be combined with the unit next door.
Oh, so then it would disappear.
Yes, it would.
This is crazy. So that's our little place, and this unit could become part of or take over another unit that's also in the building.
This is good.
Look at all these quirky little lights and stuff that it comes with. Got some power lines there, no big deal.
In New York City, that's pretty normal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like how it comes with a rake so that you can rake the AstroTurf. You're gonna need this. Does it come with a snow shovel?
I don't know.
What's also crazy is there could be more square footage out here than inside the actual place. Plus, it's also super quiet back here. What's up?
ESB right over there.
Really? Oh yeah, look, there it is. Poking in through the treetops right there.
So this is just a standard two-bedroom apartment. These are both the bedrooms right now, but that could change.
I like how it comes with some free cleaning supplies. That shows they take care of the place.
So both the rooms are full-size right now, but if this apartment gets reconfigured, it can change everything.
So you're saying what we could do is perhaps maybe not have both these little rooms here, which are about the same size, but maybe make this like a living room or something else?
You have a massive living room, yeah.
Would you describe the current living room as massive?
No, I wouldn't.
Maybe for the price it's good, but...
For New York City, it's massive, but...
How about the kitchen?
It's doable.
Whoa, it's tight. This is crazy. There's a little dishwasher in here. Decent looking microwave. Definitely like a hallway type kitchen. Wow, that's tight. If you try to open the fridge from out here, and you're getting spoiled with a sink sprayer. Stove looks good, and I would say there's enough counter space to definitely use.
For years in New York City, it's been a common trend to make apartments smaller and smaller and smaller. But that's all changing. And now that people work from home, they need a bigger space, they'll pay for a bigger space, and they want a bigger space.
It already seems like an apartment like this with like laundry and stuff in it, probably better for people that perhaps spend a lot of time in the unit.
Work from home has a lot to do with the apartments now becoming one big unit, combining two units.
So if you want to make this apartment bigger, how do you go about doing that? Where's the second apartment?
The second apartment is actually right behind this wall. You would have to combine it with the neighboring apartment right through this door.
Through the bathroom.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. People are willing to do that.
Absolutely.
It sounds like it's really expensive.
It is, but it's worth it.
Now, even though this is happening very frequently at the higher end of the market, you have to understand that to even be able to do this, you gotta be so rich. much richer than me. And in order to combine this apartment with this apartment, you gotta buy that one too. Now, sometimes you can save money if you already live in that one and you buy that one, but it's not always possible. And maybe your neighbor doesn't want to sell. You could try and convince them, but that's going to be expensive. Oh, look at that. This townhouse right here, this thing's in the middle being converted. Whatever renovation happening down here is probably going to be combined with the rest of the property. And you see that paperwork on the wall right there? Those are permits. You can't just build and convert things in New York. It's got to be legal, it's got to be inspected, it's got to be signed off on. It's a long, arduous process. One property owner I know of bought a building with the intent to add an elevator to it and then was told afterwards that he couldn't do so. And that was after the architect told him that it was possible to do it and that it would be cost effective. The city had other reasons for not allowing it. But even so, this is happening so much that 100,000 apartments are gone. And that's because sometimes the benefits outweigh the costs of converting multiple units. You could end up with an incredibly large special apartment that didn't exist before. For example, a 1-bedroom and a studio are the 2 smallest sizes of apartments. But if you combine them, you could end up with a 3 or 4-bedroom apartment depending on the layouts that you started working with. For example, once you eliminate the kitchen in a studio, you've got 2 rooms to work with, and then you can relocate the kitchen in the 1-bedroom and maybe even get 3 separate rooms plus a living room. The possibilities are endless. But what kind of layout are we gonna get out of our tiny apartments?
Check this out.
Whoa. Dude, we're like on the street. These bars make me feel real safe. So if this becomes part of the other apartment, we're gonna have a pretty unique layout.
Oh yeah. This layout is completely different from the other apartment, but if you combine the two, it just might work really well.
So essentially we've got the living room with the bedroom on the far end. And then over here we have the kitchen. Alex, you're saying this is the kitchen that's on the other side of that bathroom?
Yeah.
It's got the same layout as the other kitchen.
Yeah, right?
It's cool. Not the biggest, but it's got decent appliances at the moment. I do think I like the tile here on this bathroom a lot better for some reason. It just seems brighter. Right? Doesn't this seem like a brighter, happier place? White tile. Why can't every bathroom just look like this? I love this. I think this is paint, but I love it. So what you're saying is once you get rid of this wall, this becomes like a little hallway, but there's no kitchen appliances in it. This closet's gonna go, and now you've essentially got one wing of an apartment and the other wing of the apartment.
Yes.
So then this could become the kitchen.
Yep.
Or you could have the kitchen in the living room.
So instead of having a tiny 2-bedroom, not a huge 1-bedroom, you can have a massive 3-bedroom apartment. It really wouldn't be that hard to combine the apartments. Besides opening up the wall, it's just minor renovation work for the most part. It makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you show me what the distance is between these two places?
Yeah, absolutely. So the apartments get split up right around here. There's the second unit we just saw. And here's the first unit we just saw.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's right through here. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So there's another reason why landlords might want to do this, and it has to do with rent-stabilized apartments.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, rent-stabilized apartments, those are a hot-button topic. Every single renter wants one, and every single landlord, well, most of them anyways, wish they didn't exist. And the city's got over 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. They can exist in almost every type of apartment building, and they're a special type of living arrangement where the rent isn't set by the landlord, it's set by the city. Believe it or not, they're even in luxury buildings. And the reason that some landlords don't love this type of apartment is because once every single year, the amount of rent that can be charged in a rent-stabilized apartment comes up for a vote with the city of New York. The city hears from renters, the city hears from landlords, and then makes a decision that nobody is ever happy with. And believe it or not, this year the rent on stabilized apartments went up 3%. Renters wanted a rollback, and landlords said that even if they got everything that they wanted, the maximum amount that was even being considered, which I think was like 7%, it still wouldn't be enough to offset their new costs associated with heating these buildings, taking care of them, and paying their property taxes. And if you increase the rent 3% on a $2,000 apartment, the new rent is $2,060. But rents have gone up considerably more than that, and if you had a free market apartment instead of a stabilized one, you'd be able to run your little business better because being a landlord, is a business. And on the open market, that very same apartment might be worth $2,500 or even $3,000. So obviously there's a strong incentive for landlords to get rid of their stabilized apartments. And right now, the only way to do it is to combine a stabilized apartment with a market rate apartment, but it wasn't always like that. Prior to 2019, you could renovate a stabilized apartment and charge whatever you wanted after the prior renter moved out. But a law passed in 2019 ended up making that illegal. And for that reason, rent-stabilized conversions are extremely popular. And thousands of previously stabilized apartments are now gone.
So neither of these units are actually rent stabilized, but hypothetically, if you were to combine the two units and if one of them were rent stabilized, you would be able to get all of the square footage for both units into one at market value.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So instead of renting this, if it were stabilized for way below market, you could get market value as the owner for the entire space, not just one out of the two.
Yeah. So let's say hypothetically this unit costs $1,000 rent stabilized. That other two bed we saw is $4,500. Combine them both. That's only $5,500 you're getting. If you combine the units, you can get up to like $8,000. $3,000 extra a month. So the way this is structured actually allows you to change this up a bit. You can get rid of the two doors and put one big door right here.
That would be wild. This place would be completely different. Why do you think landlords are so eager to do this?
The same reason the world turns. Some might say money.
Money.
Yeah.
Now, critics of New York City's rent stabilization laws say that regulating private businesses always comes with unintended consequences that nobody ever expects. And that's because every apartment building in this city is effectively a different small business. Some are big, some are small, and the same set of rules might be easier or harder for these little guys to abide by than this big guy or this monster. And even if you have several buildings that might appear to be the same on the outside, the insides could be incredibly different, which means you could have a profitable building next to an unprofitable building. And you could have some buildings that have so few rent stabilized apartments that they're turning a massive profit on their rents, and others where the rent they collect isn't enough. The taxes, the cost of utilities, the maintenance, those things don't change. And here's an unintended consequence. There are over 13,000 empty rent stabilized apartments right now. These are apartments that aren't being rented to anybody while New York's in the middle of a housing crisis. Now you might think that a property owner that needs to make as much money as he can would rent everything that he can for as much as he can, no matter what it is. But the problem is a lot of these stabilized apartments, they're old, they need repairs, and if it's gonna cost you $50,000 to repair an apartment, but you can only get an extra $50 a month, oh, that's like 80 years to get it back. Critics say that this is part of the reason why so many of these are empty. And there are other reasons why landlords might try to keep their apartments vacant. Perhaps the owners are waiting for a specific opportunity to combine their apartments with market rate apartments, or maybe they're waiting to see if the city changes any of its rental rules. After all, the laws in question here are only from 2019. If those are gonna change in 10 or 15 years, some landlords might be willing to wait that long and keep an apartment vacant that long just to see if they can get it back at a higher rate. I've spoken to some property owners who think that the city might end up offering a limited time exception for landlords to renovate apartments and bring them in at market rate and keep the laws the way that they are. Basically, things are very unpredictable in New York, and landlords don't want to take any chances at the moment, because let's say you rent a rent-stabilized apartment for somebody who plans on staying for 30 years. The person who rents that apartment's gonna get a great deal. They're probably gonna stay for 20, 30 years, and it's good that it helps them, but then it hurts the landlord who has to buy the property and provide it in the first place. It's a no-win situation, especially if the building falls into disrepair. But on the other hand, disappearing apartments helps nobody either. And New York does not have any great answers for this at the moment.
So the way to fix the New York City housing crisis is not to restrict landlords, not to ban conversions. What we need to do is just get more apartments out there on the market. There is always demand for apartments in New York City, but if we have enough units, everybody can be happy.
Then you'd have a situation where the people who want to save money have an apartment that they can save money in, and then the people that want a bigger place, they can get or make a bigger place if that's what they want to do.
Right now, New York City has a vacancy rate of 3%. So a 3% vacancy rate means that landlords are very incentivized to turn all their available units into luxury units because the market's there.
Is that because they're going to rent or sell no matter what because there's a shortage?
Exactly.
So it sounds like unless something changes, the housing crisis is just gonna keep going.
That's right.
And the big question is, should New York City ban apartment conversions? Or should they instead make some rule changes to help property owners make more money with the apartments they have already? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.